Today, we're going to break down the ideas of entrepreneur and investor Naval Ravikant. He's got this totally modern take on building wealth, and he argues that it's not really about luck or just grinding out 80-hour weeks. Nope. Instead, he says it's a skill, one you can actually learn. So let's unpack how to master it.
Right off the bat, Naval puts his finger on the core problem with the way most of us work. It doesn't matter if you're a doctor, a lawyer, or you're paid by the hour. As long as you are trading your time for money, there's a hard ceiling on what you can earn. I mean, think about it. When you're sleeping, when you're on vacation, you're not earning. And that fundamentally limits your ability to build real wealth.
Okay, so if renting out your time is a trap, what's the way out? How do you build a system that starts working for you instead of you just constantly working for it? That's the big question we're going to dig into.
So the first big idea from Naval is really about a shift in your mindset. He believes that creating wealth isn't some kind of magic or like winning the lottery. It's a skill, a learnable skill, just like learning to code or, play the guitar.
And here's why that is such a powerful idea. If you lost all of your money tomorrow, but you still had the skill of creating wealth, well, you could just build it all back up again. It's about knowing what to do, who to do it with, and when to do it. It's about understanding the game, not just putting in more effort.
To learn this skill, you first have to get the vocabulary right. Most of us tend to confuse wealth, money, and status. But for Naval, knowing the difference between these three is the absolute foundation for everything else that comes after.
Okay, so this is the end goal. Wealth. And it's not just a big pile of cash in the bank. It's the businesses, the investments, the software that's working for you 24/7. It's the stuff that makes money while you're on a beach somewhere. In a word, wealth is freedom.
Money, on the other hand, is just the tool we use to move wealth around. It's like an IOU from society. When you provide value, you get money, which is just a credit you can use later to claim someone else's time or assets. It's a placeholder, not the goal itself.
And this distinction is absolutely crucial. People are almost always playing one of two games. The wealth game is what we call positive sum. You create a cool new product, and everyone who uses it can benefit. But the status game, that's zero sum. Think about climbing the corporate ladder. For you to get that promotion, someone else has to not get it. For you to win, someone else has to lose. Naval's advice here is pretty clear. Stay away from status games. They just make you angry and they box you in.
All right, so you get it. You want to play the wealth game, but how do you actually win? Well, Naval breaks it down into this really simple three-part toolkit. These are the pillars of his whole philosophy.
These are the three ingredients you need to put together: specific knowledge, accountability, and leverage. So let's break down what each of these really means and how they get you on the path to building wealth. First up, specific knowledge. Now, this is not something you learn in school or from a book. You find it by following your own genuine curiosity. It's that thing you were obsessed with as a kid, the stuff that feels like play to you but looks like hard work to everybody else. And because it's so uniquely you, nobody can compete with you at being you. It's how you escape competition, through authenticity.
Okay, number 2 is accountability. This just means taking real ownership, putting your own name on the line. And yeah, it's risky. If you fail, it's all on you. But it's also the only way you get the credit when you succeed. Society rewards people who are willing to take on that public risk with things like equity, and most importantly, with the final piece of our toolkit.
And taking on that risk, that accountability, is what gives you access to leverage. And in the world we live in today, leverage is the great force multiplier. It's how you finally break the link between your inputs and your outputs.
Archimedes understood this hundreds of years ago. Leverage just amplifies your effort. A tiny bit of work, when you apply it correctly with the right lever, can produce an absolutely massive result.
So Naval says there are three main types of leverage. There's labor. That's just having people work for you. That's the old way. Then there's capital, investing money to make money. That was the big one in the 20th century. But the new form, the most powerful form of leverage today, is what he calls permissionless. And just think about the difference here. To get capital, someone has to give you their money. To get labor, people have to agree to work for you. That requires permission. But with code and media, things like writing a blog, recording a podcast, building an app, you don't need anyone's permission to do it. It's like an army of software robots is just sitting there, freely available for anyone to use. And this right here is the absolute key.
You can create a piece of software or a piece of media just one time, and it can be out there serving millions of people while you're asleep. This is where the new fortunes are being made, and it's open to pretty much anyone with a computer. The impact of this is just staggering. A worker with leverage, like a really good coder, can be thousands of times more productive than someone without it. Their judgment and a few hours of typing can create enormous value, while someone just trading their time for money can only get linear returns. Your judgment becomes so much more important than how hard you work.
Okay, so you've got your toolkit: specific knowledge, accountability, and leverage. The final piece of this whole puzzle is the mindset. You have to be willing to play the long game.
We all get compound interest when it comes to money in a bank account. But Naval's point is that it applies to everything in life. Your reputation, your relationships, your knowledge, all of these things compound over time. When you stick with something for decades, the returns start to become nonlinear. That's where the really big rewards are.
And this really captures the difference in perspective. When you play the long game with other long-term people, you're all collaborating to bake a much bigger pie. It's a positive-sum world. But in a short-term game, everyone is just trying to grab the biggest slice of the existing pie for themselves.
And finally, Naval leaves us with this little twist at the end. The whole process of becoming wealthy, mastering a skill, creating value for others, and gaining your freedom, that process is the real reward. The money's great, it solves your money problems. But the journey itself, that's what transforms you. And that might just be the thing you were really looking for all along.